I do want to kind of start by asking you all, you've laid out a lot about the strategies that you're using, the programs that you have in place, but could you really talk to, and I would say like choose the biggest issue is how I would phrase it. What's the biggest issue you see across the county related to food access and hunger? And you know, this would be for all three of you.
Okay. Well, when we talk about food access, I think there's a lot of availability towards unhealthy foods, but the biggest challenge being the ratio of like unhealthy foods to healthy foods, especially in areas that are at higher risk for health disparities. I refer a lot to pockets like in northern part of San Mateo County and the southern part of San Mateo County and East Palo Alto. Those areas, there's huge disparities. Children have easy access to unhealthy foods. It's readily available, cheaper, so pricing. And I think as far as even the programs that we're referring to and talked about, there's not as much familiarity in regards to what kind of nutrition program assistance is out there, or there's a lot of misconceptions about whether it is available to them. So that's something that I feel like really needs to be addressed.
For us, because we are out in the community, we are hearing that there are challenges because people don't necessarily want to ask the questions because they'll be seen as needy. We always talk about low-income people, but to be honest, I'm sure there's somebody sitting in here right now who needs help with just accessing food, but we are embarrassed as folks. We don't want people to know that we're in need. What we've been trying to do is we're trying to do more around not just churches, but also having school pantries. We're trying to identify with Second Harvest where are those food deserts so that we can go set up locations. If it is presented in a way that everyone has access, and if it's seen as, if it's destigmatized, I guess for lack of a better word, that it's okay to come and get food, if it's okay to come and get meat or dairy. When they see the bigger things, they do start coming out more, and it's starting to be more word of mouth that people are starting to show up. But I do know that transportation is also another issue because we have to give away free bus passes just so people can get to some of the locations that we have set up out in the community.
And I just wanted to mention that I as was mentioned earlier, I think another major issue that's growing is the number of people that are in need of food or are struggling and not qualifying for a program. So that's definitely a growing issue in our community.
Thank you so much for that. I know you also, at least in two of your presentations, you mentioned a lot about making the healthy choice, the easy choice, and I'm sure that applies to you in the work that you do, Latrice, as well. Other than what you've shared, what policy systems or environmental change do you think needs to be put in place or needs to happen to make the healthy choice the easy choice?
Okay, so I think actually we all need to intentionally think about how we set up our environments and every environment that we interact in, starting with our home environment. And that, I mean, I've heard people say they don't want their kids to drink soda, but yet they're buying it for them. So just thinking about your home is the easiest one to have control over, and we're looking at what you're bringing in. So a lot of our food choices are made when we're hungry, right? And we're not really thinking about it. We're hungry and we're reacting, like more acting on emotion or just satisfying that hunger. So if we're looking first at our home and how we structure that, with my son, I put the Halloween candy away. I don't take it away from him. It's in a cabinet where he knows where it is, but it's not visible. So he walks through the kitchen, he doesn't see it, but he sees the fruit on the counter or the healthier foods. He'll get the candy sometimes, but he forgets about it a lot too. So it's using those strategies in every environment and then thinking about, where can you advocate for policy change? Is it in your workplace? Is it in the school where your kids go? And and how and impacting every environment that we interact in, because they're all interconnected. So the food choices my son makes are influenced by what he sees at school and what his friends are bringing into school. So all of us being really intentional about it and advocating to have the healthiest choices.
I agree a lot with what Mary just said. I'm a firm believer that healthy choices and behaviors start at a young age, and the marketing that is done towards children in our environment, and when we look at television, when we look at the grocery store, the ad imaging, oftentimes that's seen as like fun and attractive, so the eye goes directly to that, versus some of the healthier food choices. Those markets don't necessarily have the funding to produce such a marketing campaign and make it so attractive to youth. The presentation of it has so much visually for young children. And there are a lot of food companies out there that kind of play on that and are able to market to young children. And habits start at a young age. So once those habits start, it's really difficult to change into adulthood. It takes a lot, so.
Definitely about availability, because I'm just thinking about in my home, and I have a son as well, and so it's, as much as I love sugar, but I try not to buy it. And if it's not in the household, then it is so much more difficult to get in your car and go drive over to the grocery store, as opposed to, okay, you got to deal with whatever's in the house. And when you were speaking about emotion, a lot of times we're not really hungry. We just really want something to eat on. So if it's something that's healthier, fruit, nuts, that's what we try to do. With our organization also, Second Harvest has really been trying to push, and they're doing a huge push around the healthier choices. And they're pushing out more of recipes and how to turn those things that, again, like the quinoa and the things that are, or even brown rice. We know a lot of us don't want to deal with brown white rice. We don't think it tastes good. But if you find different types of recipes, or if you have any place, like say with us, because we have an industrial kitchen, we've been able to take the brown rice, because we know it's going to be part of our donations out to the community, and we'll put samples out. And so people who are coming by to pick up our groceries, they're trying the brown rice, and they're like, oh, and we put in recipe cards. So people have other ideas of, oh, this is how you make it, or for quinoa, oh, this is how. When they see those recipe cards and they see that, oh, it actually does taste good, I mean, those kind of strange foods start flying off the shelf, because it used to be they would just sit, and then we'd have to try and think, what else can we do with them? So it's having to be creative, making those different things that are healthy more available. If it's at your church or if it's at a community center, think of a different way of presenting that healthy food. Fruits as well. Make some watermelon, put some make little animal characters. You have to think, what can you do differently? And I mean, social media and the web internet has so many creative ideas, and people want to Pinterest and everything. That, I think, starting there is a big help.
Sure. Thank you. I think what I was hearing a lot was some individual behavioral changes, but also some environmental changes as well. And I think, Latrice, what you were just mentioning, I know a lot of cities in our county actually have organizational wellness policies where they say a certain percentage of the food, or they're not going to be serving unhealthy foods, they're not going to be serving the soda or the donuts. I know at the health system we have such a policy as well. So I think it's more organizational, environmental aspects as well. I do have a follow-up question, but go ahead if you want to add something.
We can advocate for those changes as
Okay.
well in our environment. So that's what I was trying to point out too, is like in our own work environment or wherever we're interacting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that we can advocate for those changes within our own the organizations that we are a part of.
Okay, great. And I think that's kind of the call to action that I'm hearing, is that, the agencies we work in, or just even the school environment. So I have a follow-up question from the audience. It's a twofold question. One is, I was surprised to hear that schools have chocolate milk to serve kids. Who makes these decisions on what foods are served in schools? And why is there such a disconnect at that point for healthy foods? So I think that's kind of what I'm hearing is advocating for some of those. But if you have anything additional to add.
Yeah. So the question about not all schools have chocolate milk, but there are a number that do have it. And the program that or the techniques that we use is Smarter Lunchroom Technique, and that we're not advocating to eliminate the chocolate milk from the perspective that it could create backlash. Like the kids then, it creates resistance. I mean, the one of the trainings I went to on the Smarter Lunchroom Technique, they actually took out ketchup packets in the school, and it created this whole ketchup revolution. Like the kids were, so it can create backlash and resistance. So the idea is, rather than prohibiting it, which can have a negative impact, to encouraging the healthier option and making it easier. And that, I don't have the exact numbers now, but the higher percentage of the kids will choose the white milk if it's distilled properly. So using those strategies rather than eliminating it. And there are standards for the school meals, and chocolate milk would fit into what they are.
Great, thank you. And there's actually a school food waste related question, is that schools waste a lot of food because students have 10 to 15 minutes to eat and must toss whole apples, oranges, if not eaten. How can we change this to allow them to take it home for someone at their house that probably needs fresh food?
So just to address the first part, Nine's on the Farm to School subcommittee with me as well, and that came up in our discussion yesterday with the amount of time that students have. Like food service directors do recognize that as a challenge, that the students don't have enough time to eat the meals from their perspective. As a parent, that's what I saw. My son didn't eat the lunches that I sent one of them half the time, and he would say, I didn't have time. So that is a challenge. There are programs in the school. There is an area, a lot of schools in the cafeteria where they leave the food, and there are some type of programs going on. I don't know exactly how it works, but there are areas to the side where they'll put on open milk or a fruit, and it is being reused or used in some way. I don't know the details of how that's happening, though. I don't know if you know.
Do you have anything?
No.
Okay. We do have, I know we're pretty close to wanting to move it in the second section of the next section of the program as well. So I definitely want to end more on a note of like call to action. What are the things that you would suggest the audience would want to think about, or what things they might want to advocate for to kind of help address the issue of hunger and waste. So I'm going to give you just like a couple of seconds to think on that, but I do want to read one or two questions from here while you guys give that some thought on what call to action would you want to raise for the audience members to consider. We've had a couple of questions on soda tax from the audience. Is anyone working on a sugary soda tax in San Mateo County? And then, as a resident of Oakland, one touchy topic during the election cycle is a 1% soda tax. How can this be an effective option for furthering education and outreach? So I can definitely give you access to a lot of research on that issue. It's on our website as well, but certainly if you want to touch base with me after this, I would be happy to provide you more information on specifically the soda tax piece. It's very controversial, and certainly everyone has very strong opinions on that as well. But I wanted to open it up to the three of you.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with what's going on, like in the East Bay, in Albany and Oakland. And I know within San Mateo County, one thing that we are working on is this at least education component of it, promoting the benefits of drinking water versus sugar-sweetened beverages. Education is key. And that's the start of anything before even going into like a soda tax but if we're able to educate the benefits and what that we have, actually we're very fortunate in San Mateo County to have clean water, and a lot of residents here that we interact with feel like they cannot even drink tap water, right? So, but the tap water is perfectly safe to drink, and so just that component of it, and starting early on, like I mentioned, with the children too. Some of the schools that we work with, we promote the children drinking from the water fountain, having water dispensers, and changing that up. Right now, currently at Parkway, Middle Heights, they put in new water dispensers because the older water fountains didn't look appealing to the students, and they just weren't drinking water at all. So I think that's a start when it comes to promotion of like taxes, just education at the
And
beginning.
since you have the mic as well, could you close out on like what's the call for action
Sure.
that you would want to put out for the audience to consider?
Yeah. Personally, as somebody who's been involved with nutrition assistance programs for over 10 years, pretty much my entire career, I think education around what's available and who can access them. There's a lot of misconceptions, so I really encourage everybody in this room, if you know of anybody who can access these programs, to really just promote that. These are programs that are out there to help individuals and provide healthier options, because the reality is that unhealthy food tends to be a little bit cheaper and affordable to families that might be on a budget. So that's one call to action that I would really love to always promote and encourage everybody that I interact with on a daily basis.
I think for us as a call to action, I would just encourage each of you first start at home. We've already been talking about that. Just making informed choice of how you stock your own house. Start there. If you're talking about what do you need to do as far as how can you get involved with this, partner with any of us, anyone around the room. We're all concerned with how is it that we help to educate San Mateo County and beyond around healthy food. Build partnerships with Second Harvest Food Bank, because again, they want to get more food, fresh vegetables and fruit out to the community. If you have a location that you want to set up, school pantry, if it's a community center, if you have a parking lot where you just want people to come and we're able to do fresh, a farmer's market, fresh produce, whatever that may be, please let any of us know, because we'll get you to the right spot. If it's clients, if it's yourself, contact any of the core agencies. I have a list over to the side as well, because you may not have the answers, but even the agencies themselves and Second Harvest and those who are around the room, if we don't know, we'll get you to the right place. So you don't have to have all the answers. This county is so rich in information and so rich in resources. I mean, I've not seen anything. Every time I get in a large room, I always tell people I have worked all over this country 30 plus years in education and social services. No county comes close to what's going on in this county as far as its commitment to the people who live here, and all the services that have worked collaboratively because of the concern that we're facing. So all you have to do is just ask, just reach out to your neighbor and just start asking the questions. There's a willingness here and there are resources here that people want to get involved and they want to do some changes. So it starts here. Just don't hesitate, just ask a question. The worst that could happen is somebody says no. Well, you keep stepping forward and ask another question to somebody who will ultimately say yes.
Thank you. I think I'm going to stick with my previous call to action with advocating in the environments that we're in, and that it's looking to set policies or standards for every area that we can influence. Maybe it's at work where you set standards for healthy potlucks or walking meetings or whatever small change we can make to help influence our environments in a positive way.
Great, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I definitely want to echo what Latrice was saying is, we all are trying to address this issue with the groups that we work and the smaller committees that we all work with. And if there's something you want to do in your neighborhood, in your city, in your school, you've got these folks right here. Please feel free to reach out to them, reach out to me. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find the person who can either get you the answer or the resources. I know there were a couple of questions here for Samaritan House, so I will give them to Latrice at the end of the panel. Please do stop by and talk to her. I apologize I couldn't get to all the questions. And I just wanted to thank the panel again for sharing kind of the lay of the land around food access, hunger, and waste as well. So thank you so much.